Today, we're going to talk about 3 generations of Vaporfly. .70 miles, 7 minutes, 37 seconds per mile today. Got very lucky with the weather. Actually saw some sun today. It rained in the morning and it rained in the evening, but for the brief time that I was outside today, I did get to see blue skies in the Vaporfly 4% Flyknit Checkered pack. And the only thing that's special or different in the Checkered pack is just the design. The labeling that's on the ZoomX foam is in Japanese. The color design is a unique color, and the insole has Mount Hakone, I believe that it is, on the insole. But otherwise, it is a standard is a weird word to use to describe Vaporfly, but it is a standard Vaporfly 4% Flyknit. And I wanted to run in this one today because I ran it in the Vaporfly Next % yesterday, and I've recently been running in the Vaporfly version 1, and I just wanted to make sure I reacclimated myself to kind of all 3 of those flavors of Vaporfly before I put this comparison video together. Now, it's not going to be the most comprehensive Vaporfly video in the world because there's a couple of notable exceptions that I can't talk about because I haven't run into them, like the Vaporfly Elite, which I think is going to be really important ultimately in talking about the Vaporfly Next, but I'll do the best that I can. The first thing that I do want to talk about though is the wear. Of all the comments that I've received, probably the most comment is whether the shoe is true to size. Yes, it is true to size. The second most popular comment is, how is the wear? Now, we took a look at the Vaporfly Next % yesterday, and the wear is amazing. It doesn't have any of the problems that I've seen on previous versions of Vaporfly. So, for example, this is the Vaporfly version 1 Vast Gray. Before I get into that, let's get to the disclosures. In terms of disclosures, none of the shoes that I'm showing you today were provided by anyone. No one's paying me to make this video. So there's nothing that we have to worry about in that regard. With that out of the way, the version 1 Vaporfly is one that I have run a marathon in. I ran the Monumental Marathon in Indianapolis. That's quite a mouthful of a name, I know, but it's the Monumental Marathon of Indianapolis. I think that's the official name. It's something wordy like that. In addition, I did a Santa run in it, and I took this with me when I was in San Diego last month. And in terms of using this shoe, it's an older shoe. It's a couple years old now, but it holds up really well. It still feels great as a Vaporfly. I would feel very comfortable still with this shoe having a little bit less than 70 miles on it, taking it for a race on the roads at this point as it is. But the most common thing that you guys wanted to know about was the wear. Now, this is my Vaporfly, and now this is the area where I tend to drag my feet the most in terms of wearing on any shoes. And this is what it looks like here. This is 70 miles on the Vaporfly 1. Now, on to the Vaporfly Checkered. This is a shoe that I've been kind of saving for my race, potentially considering it for the tunnel marathon I have coming up next month. So I haven't run in it a lot. Other than the initial first run and my run today, these are the only miles I have on it, 20 miles, and this is what it looks like. And so it's not as discolored in the outsole as the version 1, but the wear and tear on this particular part of the heel is substantial. And so if you're the kind of person that this is going to bother you, it's really going to bother you with all of the older versions of Vaporfly. Now move on to the Vaporfly Next %. Granted, it's only one run, but compare that to the only 1 or 2 runs in the Vaporfly Checkered, and this shoe is holding up much better. And I've been trying to figure out why that is, and I think it might be because the rubber that's over here extends a little bit further towards the outer rim of this outsole, or the foam, the exposed foam that's here. And maybe it's doing just that little better of a job covering it. But I also feel like when you squish the ZoomX foam on these two shoes, it feels different. It feels like, I don't know exactly how to describe it. Now, in fact, when I squeeze all three of these foams, not that squeezing is the most scientific of tools, it's not a durometer, but the foams feel a little bit different. The other thing that comes to mind is that when I look at the Vaporfly version 1 or version 2, there's this seam right where kind of the midsole foam meets the outsole foam, and it's almost as if there's like a pasted on layer at the bottom. I don't think that's exactly what's going on. I think that this seam that I'm seeing is just a seam that appears from the mold that it comes out of, but it just seems like that part of the foam is where a lot of this wear is happening on this shoe as well as on the version 1. Vaporfly Next percent, also just the ZoomX just feels in hand a little bit different. Now, in terms of other comparisons, in terms of the upper of the Vaporfly Next, I think that the Vaporfly version 1 is the most similar. Both have kind of a very breathable, very light and almost floppy material on the upper. These are the two that provide the best level of lockdown. I feel the most secure in my foot being on the shoe in the Vaporfly Next, the second being the Vaporfly version 1. Today, as I was running around in the Vaporfly Flyknit, especially coming right off of running in the Vaporfly Next, running in the Vaporfly Flyknit, my heel felt really loose in the back there. I took a couple of quick turns, and I don't know that it was any more or less actual loose or a little bit wobbly in the turns as it would have been in any of the other Vaporfly, but going into that turn, I was a little bit more concerned with this shoe just because of the way that it fits. And I think that it has to do with the way that the Vaporfly and this heel cup are designed. It's just not as snug as some of the other ones. And I've never been able to quite get that feeling that my heel is really in the shoe and isn't going to slip out or slide around. It's not a problem. It's not a performance issue. I ran my fastest marathon in not this Vaporfly Flyknit, but in another Vaporfly Flyknit. So clearly it's not a performance issue, but it makes you think about it a little bit. And for that reason, I probably wouldn't wear a Vaporfly for a 5K or anything that had hard switchbacks in it, because of the concerns that I would have going into a really, really tight turn. Now, in terms of the midsoles, there's definitely a difference, but I think the two that are closest are the Vaporfly 4% and the Vaporfly Next. Now, here's where I could be imagining things, or it might be an issue of the age of the shoe and how they're kind of holding up over time. Now, I've always thought that the Vaporfly version 1 was a little bit squishier, spongier almost, than the Vaporfly Flyknit. And when I went from running a lot more in the Vaporfly version 1 and put these back on today, it's almost like it's a stiffer shoe for some reason. And I mentioned this when I first ran in this and I first got these shoes, that the ZoomX foam still feels like ZoomX foam. It still has a very much a Vaporfly feel to it, but it felt a little bit stiffer, like there wasn't as much sinking in. And with this, I feel like a slight level of sinking in. Not quite like an Ultra Boost where you sink in and you kind of get mushy and you're stuck in the Ultra Boost. But I definitely had that. And here's the shoe for the version 1 where I definitely feel like you need that carbon fiber plate to help you get out of that sink-in feeling to keep you moving forward. There's a little bit more of that spring back feel that I like in a racer with the carbon fiber plate that works together for a nice ride. Ultimately, though, the Vaporfly Next is a far superior shoe in terms of the road manners and how it's going to feel on your feet and your knees and your other joints as you're running and getting in those longer miles. I think it's that extra level of zoom. It's that extra level of zoom that's in the forefoot specifically that just really feels fantastic and is going to be the next level above the performance of the Vaporfly 4%, which in and of itself, the thing to keep in mind is all three of these shoes are absolutely fantastic, and I'd be very happy to race a marathon in any of them. But to the extent, we're doing this kind of artificial three-way head-to-head competition, yeah, the Vaporfly Next comes first. I might lean towards the Vaporfly version 1 as the second best option of the three, just because I prefer the fit, and at least in my Vaporfly version 1, that foam just seems to give you a little bit more cushion with each stride, and on those longer miles, when you hit that mile 16, 18, 20, 23, you're really going to appreciate some of the extra cushion, and I'm not sure that it's better than what's in the Vaporfly 4%. But then again, I just could be completely imagining it, and it could just completely come down to the age of the shoe. If you've run in both of these shoes, let me know if you feel a difference in like the stiffness of the ZoomX foam. Let me know if I'm just imagining it or if I'm just crazy. Now, in terms of the outsole pattern, here's the outsole of the Vaporfly Next, and here's the outsole of the Vaporfly 4%, which is the same design as in the Vaporfly version 1. They're just very, very different. There's no real similarities that I can point to there, except for the Vaporfly Elite, which I don't have, and unfortunately I don't have experience running in. It's a similar pattern here, but from the other videos that I've seen, and I'll post a link in the description, very good video comparing this to the Vaporfly Elite, where these grooves do seem to be deeper. So it seems like there's a little bit more rubber for more traction and grip, which could be good because overall in terms of stability, not in terms of stability from a neutral pronator stability shoe kind of opinion, but from rolling your ankles due to a high stack height, I would say if that's your concern, if the high stack height is a concern, I might lean towards, well, maybe not the Vaporfly 4%, but I might look for a pair of the version 1s. Because of the higher stack height and the way that the silhouette of these shoes, or at least the footprint of these shoes, is different, I think that there's a little bit more underfoot when you're using the Vaporfly version 1. So if you are concerned about how skinny this shoe is footprint wide or like narrow, then I would say the Vaporfly version 1 is the way to go, because I could definitely tell a difference there. Again, it's that going into corners or anytime the surfaces are uneven. Even a lot of road marathons, most roads are pitched, so that way water can drain properly from a road and it won't pool. And so you're going to have, if you're running the blue line, that's the shortest distance for the marathon, you're going to spend most of your race running at least a little bit on an angle. That's why I think a lot of marathoners run in the center of the road, because that's where it's the most flat. I don't think it's going to be a huge issue. It's not going to be like I have to look at the lateral elevation changes of a race in order to decide which shoe to wear. But if you're a person who's been really concerned about how narrow the shoes are, it will be something to consider before you pick this one up. Again, I don't think it's a huge performance issue. It reminds me a lot of the heel looseness in the Vaporfly 4%. It's something that's going to make you think a little bit, but ultimately I don't think it's going to make a huge deal. But it is a difference that I have noticed between all three of these shoes, is that this one certainly is the narrowest. So those are my thoughts on all three of the Vaporfly. If you have any additional questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. I'd love to talk to you down there. But before I go for today, I want to talk about a new charity runner for this week. This week, the new charity runner is Albert Wu, who's been a longtime viewer of the channel. We talk a lot on Instagram as well. He's going to be doing the 2019 American Heart Association's Wall Street Run and Walk. And that's coming up on the 16th, I believe. It's a Thursday, I think. So coming right up. It's for a great cause. I've already donated $70 to his fundraising efforts. I'm going to post links in the description in case you'd like to learn more. That's all I have for today, everybody. Thanks for making it to the end of the video, and I will see you guys tomorrow.
Yo, what's going on?